Welcome to the Thursday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday morning. Hey Jesse, how's it going? Hey Alexander, how's it going? Welcome. Today we have a resident kitty cat. I don't know how long she's gonna stay here, but she's gonna be hanging out with us in studio. All right. Hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday morning. We have we've got a few headlines to go through. Let me start bringing some of those up. Alright, add connection. Let me see here what's going on. Alright, there we go. Hey, spread it forward. How's it going? Morning. Morning. Mugwum, how's it going? Everybody should be following Alio. Still working on slobs, got 2 different computers maybe. May go to 2 different computers. Yeah, I mean you could daisy chain them. You could daisy chain them if you have a capture card. You can daisy chain them if you have a capture card. Move some of these guys out of the way. Capture card is underneath the laptop. There you go. So yeah, you can daisy chain them. So what you would do is the more, I guess, powerful laptop would be the one that was streaming, and then you do the display capture on the other one. That's how I would do it. If I used to do that actually. Thanks for the shout out, of course. I used to do that. I used to have I used to borrow my girlfriend's laptop at the time because you know her laptop was for school and work, was pretty good. It's better than the one I had originally. I used to play Overwatch, and then I would use that laptop as the game and the other laptop as the streaming laptop. Oh, hold on folks, the cat wants to get out. Thanks for the follow, Lee Spanner. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, I thought she was gonna hang out with us, but no, she doesn't like to be in the room for more than a few minutes at a time. So, I mean, I've got a kitty cam. I have the ability to have a kitty cam. However, I don't know, maybe I have to give her like a good spot for her to hang out here for a while. I mean, she's got her cat condo over there, but I don't know. Alright, folks. We've got a few we've got a few gotta get a GoPro on her. Yeah, there you go. Now that's an idea. Like attach a GoPro to her harness and get a point of view. Trying again today. See how the laptop reacts. Hopefully YouTube won't hang like yesterday. It happens. It happens. Alright folks, let's get through some headlines. Here we go. Happy Earth Day, y'all. Hey KTS, how's it going? That's right, it is Earth Day. Oh, that actually, 14, hey Alio, thank you so much for the 14 biddies. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is Earth Day, so yes, we will have a climate change article. We will have a climate change article. Speaking of, we're covering the Wolf versus Destiny debate. Oh, okay, who saw that debate? Did anybody see that debate? I think it was pretty good. I think it was a good combo. I think that the one thing that really stood out oh man, the one thing that really stood out in my head that I can remember because I was watching it live. Maybe I'll rewatch it just to write down some notes. But the one thing I could remember was oh man, I think Destiny said like, oh, if you want to talk, he said something about in the ballpark of, oh, if you know, universal healthcare, you can see that countries didn't really do much better or worse than the United States in terms of COVID. Like, wait a minute, hold it right there. Isn't that the point? Isn't that the point? Isn't the point that not only is it cheaper, not only will it be universal for everybody, but it will also deliver the same outcomes or similar outcomes, and we don't get medical debt, and we don't get co-pays, co-insurance? What? That's our argument. Like, I can't, like, I don't know if Wolf caught him on that, but like, I noticed that immediately. Like, oh yeah, well actually, universal healthcare, there's no difference between our system and the systems in Europe and stuff like that. Yeah, I know. Isn't that weird? However, we have a thing called medical debt. And we don't even get better outcomes. Or worse outcomes, really. It's very similar. So you're just making our point, buddy. Destiny got bent. Yeah, like the thing is, I did notice that Professor Wolf got a lot of talking time, but either way, I think that he wasn't ready for that. He wasn't ready for that type of debate. Destiny also said we shouldn't care about the morality of an economic system. I think he said rather we should focus on what the outcomes are, like kind of like a consequentialist kind of deal. But I mean, yeah, but like the problem is, isn't there in and of itself some type of morality assigned regardless? Like, isn't that what drives the outcomes, I would say? Like, if your economic system is built on consolidating the more and more resources into fewer and fewer hands, I mean, I don't know. Like, I tried to understand what he was saying. Maybe there's a point, like, not to try to, like, moralize everything, but, like, whatever. I need to rewatch that, again, because I was, like, I was half at work, and, my headphones died during a good chunk of it, too. So, I'll have to listen to that conversation again. New Zealand and South Korea both did a lot better and have universal healthcare. True. The reason why they did better, though, is because they actually took the advice of healthcare professionals, or they actually took advice from science, and they shut down. And they had, specifically New Zealand had one of the most strictest shutdowns during COVID. So I think that may have like given them the edge. That may have given them the edge versus like somewhere like Italy, which has universal healthcare, did not pay attention or did not do as well in terms of like getting their shutdowns in order and stuff like that, and did pretty bad. So the point being, like the entire point being, is that which is an argument in favor of universal healthcare, is like, yeah, we get under most circumstances, if we get about very similar outcomes without the medical debt, without copay, co-insurance, and premiums, without medical debt. I mean, why not? Why don't we have a universal healthcare system if we get about similar outcomes and it's just cheaper, better, and access, and it's for everybody? So like, I don't get it. Like, he literally just made the argument for us, I think. Yeah, most chats creators I see Wolf 1, but I did see one lefty chat reading on Destiny in this morning. It was very weird, to say the least. Yeah. I mean, it's I see, good point. Yeah, like, you have to like kind of twist that around. That's the way I saw it immediately when Destiny said it. I was like, wait, oh man, I really wish he would have caught that. That's the one thing that stuck out with me, because like, obviously we're dealing with the pandemic and healthcare is like a very prominent issue now. So that's like the one thing that really stuck in my head. But of course I will review it again and I'll watch it again to get everything down, but yeah. How's it going, Bread_theory? Hope you're doing alright. Is this a Twilight Zone? Oh, I don't know if he was arguing in bad faith. I don't know if he was arguing in bad faith. I will say like Professor Wolf kind of gish galloped a little bit. But other than that, I don't know if he was like really in bad faith. I don't think that's the right like term. That's not what I would say. All right. Speaking of debates. Speaking of debates. I think Destiny Gish galloped and used spreading a lot, and Wolf masterfully answered each question in order. I've got to rewatch it because it seems like, well, again, this was just the opening parts. It's possible. Does Twitch like Wolf? Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of lefties like respect Professor Wolf. He sort of went long because Destiny packed so many questions in it. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, like, I respect Professor Wolf's critiques on capitalism and stuff like that. I think he brings up good points, especially when it comes to making people realize that we can probably do better, right? Like we can probably, like, the whole point is to progress, right? And if we can make a better system, why shouldn't we try? Why shouldn't we try, right? So I think that Wolf's Wolf's critiques are important, and I think that I think that it brings up questions, right? It brings up questions. I couldn't watch it. Destiny's too insufferable. Hey, memo for the record, debating is silly? Sometimes, it depends. Like, I think that debating is fine, but I think that debating with, like, blood sports and debating for show, or debating for, you know, the sake of, like, clout, or you're not really trying to have a conversation, what you're trying to do is put on a show. I think that's a problem with, like, online politics. Yeah. Correct, KTS. I caught that. Yes, you're right. Marjorie Taylor Greene just wants to marry Trump. Well, maybe politically. Maybe politically, Alio. Maybe politically. Like, the point of a debate should be a conversation and an exchange of ideas where both people can learn something, right? Usually. That's how it should be, right? Wait, Destiny debated Professor Wolf? Yeah, he did. He did. So, I think that should be the point, should be the point of debate, but you know, Twitch online politics isn't really interested in that. That's right, KTS. It was pretty that was pretty cringe. About what? Capitalism versus socialism. Alright, speaking of debates, Marjorie Taylor Greene says AOC and her have agreed to debate the Green New Deal. I think that this might be good, simply because, just for the sake of getting this legislation out in front of the public, because you know that there's going to be a lot of people, that are going to watch this or listen to this. I think that the important part of this debate, I don't know how that's going to work out, but the important part of this debate is to showcase the legislation and hopefully get people to, first of all, be aware that there is such a thing as a Green New Deal, and what it does specifically, and why people should support it, right? So I think that if AOC can navigate that, it might actually boost the national platform for the Green New Deal, right? Which is important, I think. So if she navigates this correctly, the public, because this is really this should be taken as an opportunity to appeal to the American people, to appeal to the American people and introduce on a national stage the Green New Deal. Society should probably modify and change if we want. Yeah, I mean, well, we as human beings should always strive to progress. And I think that in any way that we can, we should. Which is my point. Like, if there's a better system, if there are alternatives, we should try them. If there are better alternatives, we should try them. Which is why I have mentioned before that, like, one example of like trying alternative systems would be like, hey, can we like launch a pilot program to see to have credit unions or banks fund worker co-ops and see how that goes? That's an that would be a phenomenal idea. I mean, it could happen. It's not really shaking up things really bad. It's a possibility. Could do a pilot program for that. These are things that we can do. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene announced that she had agreed to a debate on the Green New Deal with her ideological opposite, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, on Wednesday. Oh wait, was it yesterday? No, this is next Wednesday. Okay. Next Wednesday. Okay, gotcha. Greene made the announcement in a tweet that included a photo of her and AOC apparently speaking on the House floor. AOC and Senator Ed Markey relaunched the Progressive Environmental Policy Resolution on Tuesday, also igniting the ire of conservatives opposed to the policies like Greene. So, the reason why this kind of started is because we talked about this yesterday, I believe, that they're reintroducing the Green New Deal, and seeing where that goes. I'm glad I ran into you today at AOC. Oh, this is a tweet. To plan our debate about the Green New Deal. After I finish reading all 14 pages like we agreed, I'll schedule a time for our debate. Wait. So... Oh, okay. I got it wrong. Alright, folks. Hold on. So, on Wednesday, which was yesterday, they agreed to set a date and time for a debate on the Green New Deal. Got you. Okay. After I finish all 14 pages, like we agreed, I'll schedule a time for our debate. Although Greene said the debate would be scheduled when she completed reading the 14-page document, there was no further details about when or where it might take place. Ocasio-Cortez has not publicly commented on Greene's announcement. Yeah, I think that this is probably a good idea. Again, just to elevate the national awareness or the national platform of the Green New Deal. And the idea would be to get people to understand what the Green New Deal really is. Get people to see it in a favorable in a favorable light, despite of all the nonsense BS that's spread around about it, and bring up public support for it. If AOC can accomplish this, then this would be a step in the right direction. That's what I'm thinking about. And I'm hoping that that they can schedule this. Because climate change is, especially in today's Earth Day, climate change is is incredibly important, and I think that we need to do everything and anything that we can to address this issue in the time that we have while we still have time, okay? So pushing conversations about the Green New Deal, pushing conversations about climate change is good. And what I mean conversations, I mean like within representatives to gather the political will to do something, maybe, hopefully. I don't know. I've been like after John Kerry's like comments, I've been like semi blackpilled on this whole thing, but I'm still trying to like keep a reasonable I'm huffing a reasonable amount of I'm huffing a reasonable amount of hopium. This may be unfair, but do you think MTG is gonna read the whole thing? Who knows? Maybe that's gonna look. Maybe that's good. How do you even debate climate change with someone who believes in true space lasers? True. You don't. You don't talk to them. You talk to the public. You talk to the American people, and you pitch this idea to them and bring up public support. You make her look. I mean, it probably won't take that much effort, but you make her look like the one who's off her rocker, you know? Hey. Welcome. Welcome, high IQ Andy. AOC is pretty good rhetorically. I don't think MTG is, so there might be a productive. Yeah, the point being is what I want to see is her pitch this to the public, and the public understands what it is, how it's going to benefit how it's going to benefit them, and why it's important. I mean, basically what I said. This is going to be more one-sided than Wolf versus Destiny. Wait, Representative Green can read? Yeah, she can. I would assume. Yeah, that's true. That's true. MTG is Magic the Gathering. Okay? That's true. Very good point. Is this gonna focus on Budweiser, her base likes? She's not like here. She's not liked here in Georgia, but she's loved in her district. Yeah, the point being is like the point being is you need to look reasonable. You need to look like you know what you're talking about, and you need to pitch this not to Representative Green. The idea isn't to pitch this or convince Representative Green. The idea is to pitch this to the American people. That's the whole point, is to give this Green New Deal a platform, right? Never mind what she's doing. Never mind what she's doing. You need to make sure that you convince the American people and accurately explain what this is, how this will work, how will this benefit you, and why it's important. I just think debating with someone who isn't known for being reasonable is a bad idea. I do hope I'm wrong though. Yeah, like in every circumstance, I think in every circumstance, I think that you're right, Jesus, but I think that this isn't about debating somebody. More, I think it's more rather than this is an opportunity to get this important piece of legislation the megaphone it needs, right? I don't know. I think Representative Green is already pretty well known. I think Representative Green is pretty well known. I mean, maybe she's not like known as like Ted Cruz, but I don't know. I think that it's still like the point being is like it's not about elevating. It's not about elevating. It's not about elevating her. It's about the actual. It's about the policy. She's known to the left more. A lot of regular people don't know who she is. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I live in this space, so maybe you're right. Maybe she isn't known to the regular folks. But I think it really is irrelevant. Like I think that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez could be debating anybody. To be honest, about the Green New Deal, I think she could be debating literally anybody. The point still stands. She needs to make sure that she pitches this in a way that the American people can understand, and so that she can make sure that the American people understand what the Green New Deal is, how it works, how it will benefit them, and why it's important. That's it. This debate will be about words and full buzzwords, just like that's the debate. I know what AOC's motives is, but indirectly gives her more credence. I just hope AOC keeps the debate short. Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, speaking on debates, that will happen at some point, hopefully. Yesterday we talked about the problems with the problems with social media and Facebook. Well, we'll see what happens here, but we're all afraid of Google and Apple. App makers tell Congress. Some app makers who rely on mobile distribution from Apple and Google are scared of how much power the tech giants have over their businesses, according to congressional testimony delivered on Wednesday. We're all afraid. Match Group legal officer Jared Sine told Senator Amy Klobuchar, the chair of the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Antitrust, at a hearing. The hearing brought together representatives from Apple and Google and several of their most outspoken critics, including Match Group, which owns the dating site Tinder, and Tile, which makes devices that help users find lost objects and faces new competition from Apple's AirTag technology and streaming music service Spotify. The hearing comes as lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are working on updates to the antitrust laws that could better account for the power a few tech giants hold over many digital markets. That includes the ability of platforms such as Apple and Google to manage the main distribution platform for apps while increasingly hawking their own competing products. Throughout the hearing, the app makers expressed fear over how easily either company could undercut their businesses by making small changes to their App Store rules. They also complained of high fees for in-app purchases and unclear enforcement of standards. Yeah, I mean, clearly this has always been a problem. You allowed Apple and Google and these big tech companies to amass these monopolies. If I were AOC, I'd just go out there and give all the bullet points. Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, what the American people want doesn't seem to have much effect on policy. Well, that depends. If it's a popular enough policy, and people build enough political pressure from the bottom up, then things can happen. But that's entirely predispositioned on whether or not we can build the political pressure from the bottom up. But generally speaking, I think big money interests always outweigh the people, even if it's popular. That's right, spread it forward. That's right. I think that this is beneficial, right? That was my entire point. Exactly, spread it forward. How's it going, Claytonius? Multiple executives accused Apple and Google of threatening their businesses. Yeah, that's what they do to keep that monopoly going, yeah? Sign said Google called Match Group on Tuesday night after his testimony became public to ask why his testimony differed from the company's comments in their latest earnings call. What? What kind of, like, mafia tactic is this? What kind of mafia tactic is this? It's so weird that this is, like, completely fine, I guess. Completely fine. On the earnings call, Match executives said they believed they were having productive conversations about Google's 30% in-app payment fee through its Google Play Store, but in testimony, Match complained that Google had made false pretenses of an open platform and complained about its monopoly power. True. Wilson White, Google's Senior Director of Public Policy and Government Relations, said it sounded like employees working in Google Business Development team reached out to ask an honest question. What? White said he didn't view it as a threat, and we would never threaten our partners because Google needs app developers to use its app store in order for it to be successful. Wait, that's... no. So... isn't the majority of Google's business just ads anyways? Senator Richard Blumenthal said the call was potentially actionable. Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of things that Google, Apple, Facebook, all of these like large tech companies, there's been plenty of things that they've done that are actionable. The question is, nobody, Congress, has decided to do anything. Klobuchar said she planned to look into the matter further. Jesus Christ. So nothing. So nothing. That's what that tells me. Surprise me. Surprise me, Amy Klobuchar. Please, surprise me. Spotify Chief Legal Officer Horacio Gutierrez said he could think of at least 4 clear examples of threats and retaliation from Apple after Spotify decided to speak out about alleged anti-competitive behavior and Apple's fees for developers on digital products purchased through its platform. That included threats of removing Spotify's app, refusing to promote it, or waiting for months for minor app updates to be approved, he said. They've basically thrown the book at us in order to make it hard for us to continue to sustain our decision to speak up. Right. Which is, in my view, incredibly anti-competitive and grounds for antitrust action to be done. Many app makers have complained about the fees gatekeepers charge for in-app purchases for digital services. Gutierrez complained of what he called Apple's gag order over how Spotify can communicate with its own users about how to upgrade to its paid version. For instance, Spotify allows customers to upgrade only outside of its iOS app in order to avoid Apple's 15 to 30% commission fee. Jesus. On digital services purchased through its platform, but because Spotify doesn't sell the paid service through its iOS app, Apple doesn't let the app maker talk about upgrades with customers bought through the app. Instead, users have to upgrade through a web browser on a PC or another method. Right. I mean, I don't use Spotify on the App Store, but yikes. At the same time, Apple operates a competitive service. Apple Apple Music, which has no restrictions. Kotero said this gives Apple's version an unfair advantage, right? Because they own the platform, therefore they can do anything. Yeah, that's just nonsense. I just noticed that antitrust is talking about business trust in the sense as being a CEO. Well, I don't know. So an emoluments clause says that if you violate it, you can't hold a position of trust in the U.S. Does that mean you can no longer do business in the United States? No, no, no. I think that the premise of antitrust legislation is, I don't know if antitrust would be the correct word. It's like anti-monopoly, anti-monopolization, where one particular business holds a unfair, uncompetitive advantage over everybody else. And I think that the actions of Apple and Google and Facebook and these companies are definitely within that range. Hey, Careless Whimper, how's it going? Representatives from Apple and Google both told lawmakers that their fees for developers are meant to cover the costs that go into distributing apps to their platform and securing them appropriately. I mean, okay, but like, on the one hand, you can't... On the one hand, maybe, but how is it that you're allowed to operate a exact competitive application that doesn't have restrictions, that doesn't have any of the same caveats, and can be promoted by you because it's your app? That makes absolutely no sense. Apple Chief Compliance Officer Kyle Andier compared the services offered on the App Store today to the cumbersome and expensive process app makers had to pursue to distribute their apps before the App Store existed. Wait, what? White cast the group as a set of small but vocal representatives of primarily large companies. He said he worried that in trying to satisfy their complaints, we damaged the very foundation that has allowed the Android open source ecosystem to work so well for a much larger set of small and medium-sized businesses. Okay. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's just one company or two or 100 of them. You can't threaten your competitors. That's just not cool. That's like some mafia style threats going on there. In addition to complaints about fees, developers worried that Apple's own rival products incentivized it to make more unfavorable decisions to them. For example, Tile General Counsel Kirsten Daru said that the company had asked Apple for permission to use ultra-wideband technology on iPhones to make its item tracking technology more precise than it can be using only Bluetooth. She said Apple had refused the request and then reserved the technology for its own competitive AirTags, which announced on Tuesday. Like, dude, you're just stealing their ideas. That's what you're doing. You're not innovating anything. You're just stealing their ideas. You're literally just saying, oh yeah, no, you can't use it, and then turn around and then say, well, it's going to be reserved for us. And we're going to deploy that technology. It's for us. What? How does that make sense, or why is that okay? While Apple is rolling out a way for third-party developers to build on its more precise location data, Daru said that in order to access that, we have to give Apple unprecedented control over our business and direct customers to find my app to find their lost items. Wait, so in other words, what? I'm gonna take your idea I'm gonna take your idea and then get credit for it. Is that what it is? Because it directs you to the Apple app. Apple's Andir argued that AirTags is a separate product from Tile, which currently has a majority of the market share for space, and that opening tools to more third-party developers will encourage competition. Wait, no. It's separate, but you're literally saying you can't use this technology, only we can. On your platform. App makers also complain that Apple's enforcement of its App Store rules can appear arbitrary and delay the launch of key features. Apple may tell developers which rules they violated, but not exactly how or what to do to fix it. Yeah. Sounds like a lot of TOS problems, yeah? I mean, in Twitch you can get banned, and then they really aren't that explicit. Seems to be like a reoccurring problem. He said that Tinder had tried to submit a version of its app with a feature aimed at protecting its LGBTQ+ users by notifying them when they were in a country where they could be at risk of exposing their sexuality or gender identity. Sign said that it took 2 months and a conversation between top executives of Match Group, owner IAC, and Apple to sort out this issue. Jesus Christ. An exchange between some committee ranking members, Mike Lee and Andir, revealed how complex Apple's App Store rules can be. Lee asked Andir to differentiate between why a paid service through Tinder might incur a commission while one for Uber would not. Andir explained that an Uber customer is paying for a non-digital service, a car to show up at their house, while they don't expect the same return from Tinder, and that would be a different service in what appeared to be an insinuation of sex work. Wait, what? No. Okay. The app makers emphasize their reliance on app stores because of their unprecedented access to consumers, but they argued it's not the symbiotic relationship that Apple and Google like to paint. We're not successful because of what Apple has done. We have been successful despite Apple's interference, Yatera said, and we would have been much more successful but for their anti-competitive behavior. I mean, yeah. I think that some serious antitrust legislation needs to be brought down, and Apple, Google, all of these like large companies need to be taken down a peg or 2 or 3 or 4. Signal CEO hacks Celebrite iPhone hacking device by used by cops. One of the biggest encrypted chat apps in the world just showed how a device used to decrypt messages can be hacked and tampered with. Moxie Marlinspike, the founder of the popular encrypted chat app Signal, claims to have hacked devices made by the phone unlocking company Celebrite, which has famously worked with cops to circumvent encryption, such as Signal. In a blog post Wednesday, Marlinspike not only published details of new exploits for Celebrite devices, but seemed to suggest that Signal's code could be theoretically altered to hack Celebrite devices en masse. What? We were surprised to find that very little care seems to have been given to Celebrite's own software security. Industry standard exploit mitigation defenses are missing, and many opportunities for exploitation are present, Marlin wrote in the post. An app could contain such a file, and until Celebrite is able to accurately repair all vulnerabilities in its software with extremely high confidence, the only remedy a Celebrite user has is to not scan devices. Nice. Marlinspike claims that whether you believe this portion of the post or not is up to you. While he was on a walk, he happened to find a Celebrite phone unlocking device. Okay, I mean, sure. By a truly unbelievable coincidence, I was recently out for a walk when I saw a small package fall off a truck ahead of me. I got closer, the dual enterprise typeface slowly came into focus. Celebrite. Inside we found the latest versions of the Celebrite software, a hardware dongle designed to prevent piracy. Yikes. I mean, if this is true, this is wild. Apple's pegs should be distributed to the workers. Celebrate devices are used by cops to unlock iPhones in order to gather evidence from encrypted devices. This can include photos and messages on the device, potentially including signal messages. Along with his colleagues, Marlinspike analyzed the device and found that it included several vulnerabilities that could allow an attacker to include otherwise innocuous file and an app that, when it gets scanned by a Celebrite device, exploits it and tampers with the device and the data it can access. To be clear, this is a pretty ballsy show of force. Marlinspike published the details about the exploit outside of normal responsible disclosure guidelines and suggested that he is willing to share the details of vulnerabilities as long as Celebrate does the same with all the bugs the company uses to unlock phones now and in the future. Yikes, if this is true, I mean, geez. I would also like to point out, does this work for, like, is this the same, like, concept for iPhone? I mean, not for iPhone, for, Android? In a slightly nebulous final paragraph, Marlinspike said that future versions of Signal will include files that are never used for anything inside Signal and can never interact with Signal software or data, perhaps implying that these could be designed to tamper with Celebrate devices. Interesting. We reached out to Signal to ask them to clarify what Marlinspike meant exactly in that last paragraph. Celebrate did not immediately respond for a request to comment. In their analysis of the device, Signal researchers also found that it contained packages signed by Apple and likely extracted from the Windows installer for iTunes version 12.9.0.167. According to Marlinspike, this could be a copyright violation. Ooh. Oh, no. Interesting. Very interesting. So if you're interested in learning about this, I highly suggest you take a deeper look into it. Manhattan DA ends prostitution prosecutions. So this is a good move. This is good news. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office said it would stop prosecuting prostitution cases, a new policy that said it was the first of its kind in the state. Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. also asked the New York State judge to vacate about 6,000 bench warrants and dismiss associated cases dating back to 1976. In a virtual court hearing on Wednesday, the cases all had a top charge of prostitution, unlicensed massage, or loitering for the purposes of prostitution, Mr. Vance's office said. Over the last decade, we've learned from those with lived experience and from our own experience on the ground, criminally prosecuting prostitution does not make us safer and too often achieves the opposite result by further marginalizing vulnerable New Yorkers. True. Yeah, 1976, unbelievable. Yeah, like, there's no serious, effect on, you know, crime by jailing sex workers, right? I mean, you're not really doing public safety by jailing sex workers, right? Yeah, literally someone's grandparents, true. It does absolutely nothing to avoid or stop violent crime. In fact, it may perpetuate it. It's just not good. Mr. Vance, the Democrat, said in a statement he called the case a relic of a different New York. The move to dismiss the cases comes after New York's lawmakers earlier this year repealed the statute criminalizing loitering for the purpose of prostitution. For too long, trans people have been unfairly targeted and disproportionately policed for innocent lawful conduct based solely on their appearance. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo after signing the bill in February. The measure was passed largely along party lines. Lawmakers who supported repealing the law known as the Walking While Trans ban said it led to discriminatory policing of transgender women. Some state Republicans said at the time the bill would hinder enforcement efforts and make it more difficult to prevent prostitution. But like, that doesn't need to be a crime in the first place. That doesn't need to be a crime in the first place. Like, just leave people alone. It's that simple. This is like the exact same argument for decriminalizing and legalizing all drugs, right? Like, just leave people alone. But how will Manhattan fund their police without taxing the poor? After Mr. Cuomo signed the legislation, judges in other boroughs dismissed similar cases at the request of district attorneys. In March, the district attorney in Queens, Brooklyn, and Bronx requested judges dismiss hundreds of prostitution-related cases. Yeah, like, there's no point. Hundreds. Okay? Unnecessary. Where am I? Ah, yes. Other district attorneys in New York haven't announced policies to stop prosecuting prostitution. Mr. Vance's new policy comes at a time when prosecutors across the U.S. are rethinking their approach to prostitution cases. In prostitution cases in Brooklyn, prosecutors offer services to defendants and dismiss the case typically before any court appearance, a spokesman for the district attorney's office said. In March, District Attorney Eric Gonzalez said that those with open warrants, like old prostitution-related warrants that his office dismissed, are more likely to be driven underground and less likely to report abuse or other crimes, like other actual crimes. Correct. Abigail Swenstein, a staff attorney with the Legal Aid Society Exploitation Intervention Project, which works with sex workers, said the Manhattan District Attorney's Office had been dismissing most prostitution cases in recent years, but usually not until a defendant showed up to court and was referred to services like counseling. Under the new policy, people arrested won't have to show up for court. Okay. Mrs. Swenstein said that while the policy doesn't preclude the New York Police Department from making arrests, she hoped that officers would choose not to make arrests knowing that the prosecutors won't bring charges. It remains to be seen what NYPD will be doing moving forward. The police department didn't respond for a request to comment. New York Assemblyman Mike Riley, a Republican who opposed the state legislation, said Manhattan's new prostitution policy set a dangerous precedent. It flies in the face of law and order. Said Riley, who once worked as a police officer in a unit that enforced, no kidding, to you, that enforced prostitution laws. Like, exactly what is the point, right? What is the point? You're not taking violent criminals off the street. You're not doing anything in terms of law and order. You're not achieving any of that. In fact, you may be inadvertently promoting more violent crimes to be committed. Mr. Riley said that in his Staten Island district, he knew of several unlicensed massage parlors. Not holding these people accountable for these illegal activities will just bring more serious crime. No. Making these things illegal makes them go underground and less likely to report any actual crime with a victim. If, for example, if one of these women get abused or worse, they are less likely to report it, because then they would have to out themselves. Citation needed on bringing more crime? No, it's the exact opposite. Making this illegal brings more about serious crime, because, well, if prostitution is illegal and something happens to happen, they are less likely to report it. If if something happens to one of these women, they are less likely to report it. Not holding these people accountable for these illegal activities will just bring about more serious crimes. That now they will do it without any cover of darkness. Like, just leave people alone, dude. Just leave people alone. Like, they're not. These are like, out of all the things that we should be focusing on, this shouldn't even be on the list. This shouldn't even be on the list. This is the exact argument for legalizing or decriminalizing drugs. Like, right, correct, Claydonius, yeah. Crime-ridden since they legalized sex work, yeah. Just like how, Colorado is just teeming with crime because they legalized drugs. Like, okay, dude, or legalized marijuana. Okay, dude. That's not how this works. The TLDR is just leave people alone, okay? Leave sex workers alone. These are victimless crimes. No, stop it. Alright. Slightly, good news? Slightly? Not sure yet? Not sure yet. Democrats unveil plan for tuition-free college amid student debt crisis. As President Biden weighs an executive action, which it's April. Dude, it's April. To cancel as much as $50,000 in student loans for each borrower, Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont and Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal of Washington are introducing new legislation on Wednesday that they say would help address soaring costs of higher education. If passed, the College for All Act would make community college and trade schools. I think that's important right there. Trade schools. That extra caveat is incredibly important. Community colleges and trade schools, tuition free for all students. It would also make public four-year colleges and universities, as well as public nonprofit minority-serving institutions such as historically black colleges and universities, tuition free for all students from families earning less than $125,000 a year. Now that's how you do it, folks. This is gonna be, if this happens, this is gonna be good. I think, huge, right? Tuition free for all students for families earning less than $125,000 a year. Yeah. If we're gonna have the kind of standard of living that the American people deserve, we need to have the best educated workforce in the world. True. Said Sanders, an independent who caucuses with Democrats. In a statement, it's absolutely unacceptable that hundreds of thousands of bright young Americans do not get a higher education year, not because they are unqualified, but because their family doesn't have enough money. True. There's no path to opportunity, right? Like, this is what frustrates me about the idea of, oh, you just pick yourself up by the bootstraps, bro. Just get a degree. Like, just get a degree. Just go to college. Just do this. Like, no, dude. We can't do any of that if there's no pathway to opportunity. The point being is, if you want individuals to be their best self, you need to have that platform for them to be able to be their best self. If you're interested in the individual, you need to make sure that they have these things. Right? If not, in fact, I've said that maybe I'm the true individualist. right? Maybe I'm the true individualist because I want people to have the opportunity to be their best self. I want people to have the tools that they need, and that's food, housing, education, and healthcare. How can, like, I don't know. It just seems wild to me. It just seems wild to me that people don't see this. In order for people to be their best self, in order for an individual to have the best possibilities, the possibilities for the best outcomes, you need to give them the tools necessary for that. I mean, it's just that simple. You need people to make sure that they have food, housing, education, and healthcare. It's just I mean, just saying. The proposal comes as some Democratic lawmakers have urged the president, who initially supported $10,000 in student loan relief, to cancel up to $50,000 in student loan debt. More than 44 million Americans are burdened by student loan debt, and total debt surpassed $1.7 trillion last year. Jesus. Supporters argue that the move would provide relief for millions of Americans saddled with debt and spur economic growth. Right. That is true. I truly believe that this will act as a pseudo-stimulus. I think that doing this, student debt and medical debt would be a huge stimulus to the economy, if you want to talk about that. First of all, medical debt shouldn't be a thing. It shouldn't. But, you know, shaving off $50,000 off student debt would spur economic growth. Critics question the fairness of the move and claim it doesn't address underlying high cost of college. Well, they did though. They said that all, at least community colleges and vocational schools should be tuition free, right? I mean, there's still going to be private institutions, but the community colleges, community vocational will be tuition free. So yeah, I think that underlines, I think that addresses the high cost of college. And I'm not understanding what valid criticism is of the fairness of the move. Is it oh, well, all of these other students who had to pay their student debt, it's not fair. Yeah, well, there was a point in time where Social Security didn't exist. So are you saying that when it was being proposed, it'd be like, well, everybody before them didn't have Social Security, so why should we give them Social Security when it was being proposed originally? Like, what is that argument? So in other words, we should never progress. We should never propose anything better. We should never try to alleviate the situation and material conditions of people. That's the argument. That's not a fair criticism. That's not a good criticism. The new proposal would double the maximum federal Pell Grant to $12,990, up from the current $6,000. Oh yeah, double, $6,495, and allow students to use the money to cover other college-related costs like housing and books. The grant amount would also be tied to inflation, expanded to eligible Dreamers who were brought illegally to the U.S. as children. The proposal would also triple federal funding for programs to help identify and provide services for students from disadvantaged backgrounds, low-income, first-generation college students, or individuals with disabilities. Hey, look at that. I think that's a great idea. It would double money for Gear UP, the grant program that helps prepare low-income students for college. Yeah, that sounds like that's all great. I think so far we're good. So far I'm agreeing with this plan. Right, you gotta pull that ladder up from behind us. It's the American way, true. I got mine, so everybody behind me. I got mine, so I'm good. Everybody else can go F themselves. Correct. The true American way. To make such college tuition fee free, the federal government would cover 75% of the cost of tuition and fees, while the states would pay the remaining 25%. The plan would also bump the federal government's share to 90% in the case of an economic downturn. Cool. It seems like a well thought out plan, in my opinion. So far. So far, we're good. In an effort to pay for the proposal, Sanders will also reintroduce legislation Wednesday that puts a tax on trade stocks at 0.5%, bonds at 0.1%, and derivatives at 0.005%. What? Folks, we can get community colleges, vocational schools, and increased funding for education across the board to help low-income families or low-income students for a tax on trades, stocks, derivatives at 0.5, with stocks, bonds, and derivatives at 0.5, 0.1, and 0.005%. Yeah, I think that's a fair trade-off, okay? I think that's fair. 0.5, 0.1, and 0.005. I think that's fair. I think that's a small ask. According to the senator, the plan would raise up to $2.4 trillion in over 10 years. Democratic Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California is set to reintroduce tax legislation in the House. The College for All Act has been endorsed by at least 8 unions and more than a dozen national organizations, including progressive organizations such as Justice Dems and Move On. Successful transition into adulthood is an essential measure of well-being for children and youth, said Children's Defense Fund President and CEO, Reverend Stark C. Wilson, in a statement supporting the initiative. With 6 in 10 American jobs requiring some education beyond the high school, our children will not thrive without these doors being open wide. Well, also there's yes, but there's also an issue where, you have a lot of jobs that say, oh yeah, you need college education, you need a 4-year degree, you also need 2 years experience and references and all that stuff, and $11 an hour. Okay. I'm memeing, but there are unironic jobs that are like that. The legislation reflects some of Biden's education platform on the campaign trail. During the election, he called for 2 years of community college and other trade schools to be tuition-free, as well as making public colleges and universities tuition-free for families making less than $125,000. His platform also included doubling Pell Grants, but the plan still faces an uphill climb in Congress, including how it would... including how it will be paid for, as Democrats hold a slim majority in the House and the Senate is 50-50. This is incredibly, I think this question unironically triggers me. Including how it will be paid for. Bro, dude just gave you the breakdown of how you're gonna pay for it. And we don't ask these questions. Does anybody ask these questions? Who's gonna pay for it? How it will be paid for as we dump billions and billions and billions and billions into the military? Does anybody ask that question? But when it comes to trying to help our own citizens, when it comes to actually maybe trying to move in a better direction, trying to at least offer opportunities for young people, oh, now we gotta stop. We gotta stop and worry about how and who is gonna pay for it. Us. We are. Well, in the case of Senator Sanders' plan, Wall Street's gonna pay for it. That's such a bizarre question. It just, whenever somebody does this, unless there's, a real legitimate concern, unless there's some, wild legitimate concern, it just feels like when you ask this question, you're not really interested in solving the issue, right? Because nobody asks this question when it comes to giving billions, hundreds of billions. I wonder if people asked that question when it came out that, like, for the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, we're at trillions. Has anybody stopped and asked, like, wait a minute, what? Where's all this money coming from? Wait, how are we paying for this? So unless you have, like, some serious legitimate concerns, which I feel like this can be done, I don't see, like, how this will break the United States. I don't know how the United States will be broken if we try to offer people some basic higher education, some healthcare. It's so frustrating. Meanwhile, on Tuesday, Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts and Reverend Raphael Warnock of Georgia sent a letter to Secretary Miguel Cardona urging the Education Department to remove federal student loan borrowers from default after COVID relief measures halted payments and interest among the pandemic. Correct, Claydonius. Unbelievable. Like, I every time I see this, I get instantly, like, angry. How will it be paid for? Yeah, the same place all these trillions of dollars go to waste. The same place where we were able to somehow dig deep and find how many trillions was it for the failed F-35 or whatever F-15 failure? How we dug real deep for that one, didn't we? We dug hella deep for $1.5 trillion on that, right? Now I know budget in government is complex, and I know that sometimes things aren't as simple as just like, oh yeah, well, we can just do. I get it, but if we can find the money to budget $700 and something billion for the military, I'm pretty sure we can figure it out. I'm pretty sure. Oh. May or may not be molding. May or may not be a molding article. I don't know. Dem's ambition narrows as political reality sets in. What political reality? Senator Angus King is still undecided on whether to support DC statehood, an important goal for many Democrats he aligns with, and the independent Maynor is in no rush. I'm still kind of pondering on it. There are just other issues I'm engaged with at this point. King is one of 5 Democratic caucus members who have yet to support the statehood bill, souring what should be a milestone week for the movement to empower the capital city. The House will approve statehood for the second time on Thursday, and now Democrats have a supportive president in Joe Biden. But the statehood proposal, like other central elements in the Democratic agenda, may not make it to the Senate floor this year, given its lack of unified support from Biden's party. With infrastructure and voting rights bill proving difficult enough to get to the president's desk, Democrats are putting long-held progressive priorities like a 51st state, Supreme Court expansion, and 15 minimum wage on the proverbial back burner while they focus on what's actually achievable. Wait, but like, okay. It is quite possible, and I know this might be crazy. It's quite possible to walk and chew gum at the same time. Okay. I don't understand. You can still push for this. You know. I don't think that this will expend a lot of political capital. Okay. I don't I don't understand. Like, I don't think that this will necessarily exhaust a lot of political capital. A 15 minimum wage is highly favored. I don't understand. It's highly favored. Unbelievable. Hey, Squid DR. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. It's always used as dismissively as possible to create needless point of response. Who will pay for it? Are you implying the wealthiest economies in the world can't afford it? Exactly. Like, trust me, we can figure it out. Exactly my point. We can figure it out. Don't tell me that we can't. Kind of weird. Unless there's like some wildly legitimate concern, it's always used in a dismissive way. True. There we go. That's probably a better way of putting it than I did, but 15 minimum wage is not unpopular. Like, what political capital are you gonna waste? What political capital are you gonna waste getting a highly popular, necessary policy out? Oh, wait, here's another thing that I just remembered. I could have sworn I heard that, in the background, maybe, I'll have to review it again, but I could have sworn that, Destiny said that $15 an hour isn't feasible or something like that. Bro, there's a reason how they came up to that number. I don't think... There's a reason... if $15 an hour is the numbers that they chose, it didn't just come out of nowhere. There's plenty of economics behind it, and it's not a Thanos snap where tomorrow everybody's at 15 an hour. Second of all, companies are already moving in that direction because they know the popularity of $15, a $15 minimum wage that continues to get support and momentum state by state. There have been already a handful of states who have already moved in that direction. Many businesses are already moving in that direction in anticipation of it being a federal minimum wage. And it turns out they can afford it. Yeah, wow, I know. Surprise Pikachu face. They can afford the 15 minimum wage, and it makes their business thrive. Anyways, this Supreme Court expansion, I'm not in favor of. I think that no, we have, I don't think that will lead to the outcomes that I don't think that will lead to the outcomes that we think it will. No, I think that a 51st state for DC statehood, okay, fine. They should have a voice and representation. They are American citizens. A $15 minimum wage is highly popular and necessary. And what's the holdup here? What's the holdup here? Aren't you supposed to represent the people? And if the people are highly in favor of a raise in the minimum wage, what's the holdup? It's really telling that even things that are being favored are still only band-aids because they can but because they can be a step in the right direction. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm still in favor of it, yes. After a Trump era that emboldened its left flank to push ambitious plan, the party's legislative agenda is gliding down from loftiness to pragmatism. What does that mean? Passing infrastructure is more important than anything that we're not sure that we can actually get the votes to pass. So you build the case to the American people. I'm not understanding this. You build the case to the American people as to why they should pressure their representatives. What is the problem here? And I think that infrastructure is incredibly important because it provides us the opportunity to maybe address like the whole climate change thing. Um, but I think that in the immediate, as we end this year, I think that as long as we're doing good on COVID, as long as we're doing good on like economic policies that actually help people, then we need to immediately start hitting climate change really hard. And I think infrastructure is a way of doing it. It's one aspect, one tiny piece of the puzzle that we can do. So yeah, sure, infrastructure is important. Not only that, our infrastructure is pretty abysmal, to say the least. We're not sure that we can actually get the votes, said Senator Martin Heinrich, who supports both DC and Puerto Rico statehood. Right now, we need to focus our limited floor time to the most important stuff for the Biden administration to be successful, and our country to be successful. If we can do other stuff, great. Like, what does that mean? Other stuff. Other stuff. You know, I know this may not, I know that this may not, this may surprise you. But what you do or what you don't do affect real people. It turns out, I know this may be shocking, but what you do or what you don't do affects real people. Okay? Jesus Christ. Some stuff, other stuff is great. Like, what does that mean? If you get a popular program like a raise on the minimum wage, you are making a policy that is going to affect a lot of people in a positive way. Your lack of action still affects people, okay? What you do or what you neglect to do affects real people. I'm not sure I'm sold on that, Squid Dead here, because like, I mean, at the end of the day, what could happen is I'm not feeling confident that the Democratic Party is going to do sufficient before the midterms. I've got a gut feeling, of course I could be 1000% wrong, and I hope I am, that they're gonna get swept. Okay, they're gonna get swept, and you know what happens? When Republicans get in power? I'm not sure if I want to open that Pandora's box. I mean, Mitch McConnell threatened. Mitch McConnell said what he was going to do should he get his hands in power. Okay? We're experiencing that box right now. Jeez. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm sold on that idea. As we heard what Mitch McConnell said he would do if he got his hands in power again. And if we just let that, if we open that gate, you have a Democratic governor and a Republican majority in the Supreme Court and the House. Yikes. That's not to mention the Green New Deal that liberals reintroduced on Tuesday, which will join Supreme Court changes on the list of progressive goals that likely would even get to the House floor. Another passel of liberal bills already won House passage before stalling in the Senate, such as ethics reform, new background checks for gun buyers, LGBTQ safeguards, and protection for so-called dreamers. Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing that they need to be really focusing on, just to put on my political pundit hat on for a second, if the Democrats are interested, and I mean really interested in maintaining power or not getting swept in the midterm elections, they need to get it together now, while there's still time, and they need to move to improve people's lives for real, okay? I think that moving in the direction of maybe doing like student debt relief is a real palpable policy. I think moving in the direction of raising the minimum wage is a real palpable policy. People are going to feel that. I think that moving in the direction of, for example, a universal healthcare system, those are real, palpable things. Moving in the direction of solving climate change or bringing the conversation up to the American people and saying, "Hey, this is a serious crisis. This is an opportunity to progress. This is an opportunity to be once again the world leader," and pitch it to people in that way. This is again an opportunity to advance and to progress, and also our planet depends on it. Just a little bit. These are things that they need to be focusing on that will have real palpable results, and they need to do that now. If they're interested in keeping the majority, what little majority they have. Otherwise, you know, I begin to wonder, especially with previous comments said by Nancy Pelosi. I'm really wondering if they even are interested. Anyways. The underlying problem for progressives, most of their big ticket proposals are several votes, in some cases many more, away from unifying the Senate's 50 Democratic caucus members, and others divide the House's slim Democratic majority. Those lines are especially clear in DC statehood, which this year boasts a historic amount of Democratic support in the Senate, yet still can't pass due to hesitance among Democrats and the existence of the filibuster. Senator Jon Tester, who supports DC's statehood, conceded it's not the highest priority for me. It's important, I support it, but voting rights, the infrastructure is a much higher priority. Yeah, I think that if the people, I mean, DC should absolutely have representation. I mean, yeah, I don't get it. They absolutely deserve representation, like real representation, not just symbolic representation. I think that I don't get it. They seemed to have a good tactic, educate people into understanding that the war machine can be the infrastructure machine. I think they're falling short on all accounts, though. If they were to boldly move to make things like higher education, secure the environment, healthcare, constitutional right, they would have an edge they need. Oh yeah, like the point being is that you need to have serious, palpable results and improve people's lives for real, something that they can see. And failure to do so, which it seems like we're heading in that direction, maybe. I mean, don't get me wrong, they have done some good policies, obviously. But I think that it's very lackluster, and I think that it could potentially lead to disaster in the midterms. Should they care? Should they want to win? It's all right there, but they want to play bipartisan with obstructionists, right? Like when clearly Republicans have never shown any type of interest in bipartisanship when they had the majority. Like, okay, that's correct. I mean, voting rights, yes, is incredibly important. But I think that DC statehood and voting rights are kind of hand in hand, don't you think? The infrastructure stuff is a much higher priority. Infrastructure is important. Congressional Progressive Caucus Chair Rumila Jayapal pushed back, arguing that the issue of statehood is hardly extraneous to the party's goals. If we're talking about the votes and democracy of 725,000 people, Jayapal said, referring to the lack of urgency of some of her Senate colleagues to vote on the DC statehood, it's core and central to who we are as a democracy and to who we are as Democrats. The Senate has changed hands from what Democrats like to call Mitch McConnell's legislative graveyard, but the upper chamber is still the place where many of the boldest ideas in Biden's party will be buried. While the filibuster remains an impediment to progressive achievements. The reality is Democrats are finding it plenty hard to get all 50 of their senators on the same page to begin with. I mean, that's weird. Mitch McConnell didn't have this problem. The Senate has changed hands. Oh, yes. DC statehood, which is expected to be approved on party lines on Thursday, is one glaring example, with some Democratic senators suggesting it's not worth the floor time and their chambers already tied up with cross-aisle negotiations on bills that stand no chance of becoming law. House progressives, though, warned their counterparts across the Capitol can't stiff-arm proposals that are popular with their base without Democratic voters punishing them for sidestepping a long list of campaign promises that help deliver the party control of Washington. Yeah, it's also true. It's a worthwhile thing to do, of course. There's time. Dean is among the House Democrats set to appear at a press conference demanding to end filibuster on Thursday beyond DC statehood. The Pennsylvania Democrat easily ticked off House-passed bills that have piled up in the Senate this year. The Equality Act, a couple of gun bills, violence against women authorization, so many transformative bills. Hey, how's it going, baby chief? One obvious difference since the 2020 election, of course, is that Democratic leaders can now force Republicans to go on the record against their high-priority bills. But in the case of statehood, that would also smoke out the 5 members of the Senate Democratic Caucus who are so far withholding support. That's King, Manchin, Sinema, Kelly, and Shaheen are all against it or have not decided. Shaheen supported statehood in the previous Congress and said that Wednesday she still supports the concept but hasn't reviewed the House latest bill. Okay. In fact, it's not clear that any Democratic senator is outright opposed to DC statehood, even if the quintet keeps their names off the bill. Kelly said that he supported the goal of giving representation to Washingtonians, but that was non-committal in an interview. Okay. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Oh yeah, I forgot. Okay. Whoa, for a second there I read Senate Majority Leader McConnell. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said he will try to work a path to get it done, but did not guarantee a floor vote. He's publicly committed to consider voting rights legislation and gun background checks, but in the coming weeks, the Senate is focused on considering narrow hate crime legislation, a water infrastructure bill. Yeah, that's important, by the way. And a bill aimed at helping the U.S. compete against China. That lineup isn't exactly representative of the issues that have energized the party's base for the last 5 years. Frustrated is an understatement. Representative Mondaire Jones on the Senate agenda. Democratic leaders have anticipated this backlog of left-wing bills within hours of party winning a pair of Senate seats in Georgia and landing in full control of Washington. They're facing cries from liberals to blow up the filibuster and deliver on sprawling agendas. I'm doing okay. What about you? I'm hanging in there. I'm glad you're here. But those demands aren't compatible with a House and Senate so narrowly divided that even absences are a major headache. Even one bipartisan issue like immigration, labor union protections, and gun safety are miles away from a 60-vote supermajority in the Senate. Importantly, Democrats have capitalized on their party's energy to enact other progressive measures. They passed a massive $1.9 trillion coronavirus bill with beefed up unemployment benefits and child tax credits, and have committed to passing another similarly largely infrastructure bill. We've passed a huge and necessary relief package, and we're working on big infrastructure bill, and we're committed to take up the voting rights and ethics bill soon. So we're working through all the pieces. I hope so. Otherwise, I hope so. I will admit I only feel slightly optimistic in thinking Republicans have lost all edge to willfully grow their audience. I don't think that they are. There's definitely an infighting going on between the GOP, whether or not to be more laser targeted or whether to expand. Some House Democrats are searching for workarounds that could keep their loftiest hopes alive even on voting rights. Members of Congressional Hispanic Caucus made the case to Biden on Tuesday for passing immigration reforms with a simple majority in the Senate, rather than risking another big letdown with bipartisan talks. White House Secretary Jen Psaki swatted down the idea the following day. Yeah, I get it. It is frustrating. It is frustrating. For 4 years, we complained that bills went to the Senate and died and went to Mitch McConnell's graveyard. We can't really have these good bills die in the Senate under Democratic control. True. The difference being is that at least this will have, at least some of these bills will have the light of day. Versus in Mitch McConnell's Senate, they wouldn't even be held for a vote. That's the difference. Alright folks, I'm going to take a quick break and take a second to show for myself. If you guys enjoy the channel, make sure you hit that follow button. Make sure you like the stream, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really does help us out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and thank you for the follow. I appreciate that, Squid Ear. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really does help us out. I appreciate everybody being here, and if you guys want to support the channel, there's many different ways you can do so. Subscriptions, biddies, donos, and merch, all of that awesome stuff. You guys have been absolutely amazing, and I appreciate all of your support. You guys are what makes this channel grow, and it's been incredible, and I appreciate each and every one of you being here. And of course, my call to action, as always, please, if you enjoy the channel, spread the word far and wide, everywhere and anywhere, that this is the chillest place to be, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. For news and politics. Your good morning talk, my friend. Thank you. No, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. You being here means a lot, and all of you guys that are here, thank you. I will be right back to finish up some of these articles here. Laydonius, thank you so much for the tier 1 subscription. We're at 3 months, my friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So yeah, I just hope that if they're interested in winning, that they get it together. Alright folks, it is... let me finish this article. Republican legislators in Oklahoma and Iowa have passed bills granting immunity to drivers who vehicle strike and injure protesters in public streets. A Republican proposal in Indiana would bar anyone convicted of unlawful assembly from holding state employment, included elected office. Wait, what? Wait. Hold on. Is this the party of small government? Huh. Weird. Weird. A Minnesota bill would prohibit those convicted of unlawful protesting from receiving student loans, unemployment benefits, or housing assistance. Oh man. Oh. Oh lord. Um. So, TLDR, F poor people. Jesus Christ. And in Florida, Governor DeSantis signed sweeping legislation this week that toughened existing laws governing public disorder and created a harsh new level of infractions. A bill he's called the strongest anti-looting, anti-rioting, pro-law enforcement piece of legislation in the country. You proposed a problem. You proposed a solution to a problem that doesn't exist in Florida. This is political posturing from DeSantis, and this is most likely preemptive to him probably running for president or running for the Republican nomination. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Folks, when was the last time you guys heard that Florida rioted or is known for rioting in terms of like protesting? When has anybody here seen headlines of Florida rioting? His problem is the First Amendment. True. Has anybody really seen that Florida has like just this massive? He's proposing a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. The measures are part of a new anti-protest legislation sponsored and supported by Republicans. In 11 months since BLM protests swept the country following the death of George Floyd, the Minneapolis police officer who killed Floyd, Derek Chauvin, was convicted on Tuesday on murder, manslaughter, and a cathartic end to weeks of tension. But while Democrats seized on Floyd's death last May to highlight racism and policing and other forms of social injustice, Republicans responded to a summer of protests by proposing a raft of punitive measures governing the right to lawfully assemble. GOP lawmakers in 34 states have introduced 81 anti-protest bills. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if they were really interested in solving this problem, why did they wait till now? Why did they wait till now? I guess it wasn't that much of an emergency. It just feels weird. Florida lets them classify a group of two as a riot. I think it's 3 people. 3 people can be considered a riot, ladies and gentlemen. That's correct. In Florida. I don't think I've ever heard of a Florida riot. They happened in last summer. I believe there was, from my count, and from my count was 1, 2, I think about 4 to 5 during the entire summer of last year. About 5. Because I know 2 for sure. 2 for sure happened in South Florida, and I think there was like a couple of more. So it can't be more than like a handful, if that. So yeah, and none so far after that. So again, I think that Ron DeSantis is putting a solution to a problem that doesn't exist, just to posture, right? And furthermore, it's like rioting is already illegal. There's already rules for that, okay? Just feels like a power grab. Right, it's at University of Florida and University of Miami when they win football championships, maybe. True. Not even. Not even. Right, here's my point. Laws already exist to punish rioting, and civil rights advocates worry that new bills violate rights of lawful assembly and free speech protected under the First Amendment. Yeah, like, we already have these things, okay? It seems like my point being is, like, it seems like the party of small government is just attempting to expand the powers of government. Which is really weird. Like, again, saying one thing and then doing the other. Indiana made it legal to run protesters, basically, and made a ton of anti-protester legislation despite all the opposition bills. Hopefully ACLU takes these bills to court. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be court fights over some of these, for sure. And I wonder if that applies. I wonder how they... And of course, I'm wondering how the situation would play out if it was in the opposite direction, right? I wonder how the sentiments would play out if it was on the opposite, because you know that could easily be flipped around. That could easily be flipped around. So to use Florida, for example, Florida, the chair of the Proud Boys is a Florida man. I wonder if he just gathers 3 people or more, if that's considered a riot, and will he be charged under these new rules? Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. This was recently declared unconstitutional, weren't they? If they were, I'm not aware of it, but if they were, I'm not aware of it. Yeah, if they were, I'm not aware of it. But I'm saying, officially, if they were declared unconstitutional, I'm not aware of it. But I'm sure there's definitely gonna be fights in courts over this, for sure. Just saying. Be careful what you wish for. Didn't some of these insurrectionists at the Capitol now are facing what was it, like a minimum 10 years because of Trump's like executive order? Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But weren't some of them facing that because of Trump's executive order? Someone fact check me on this. My point being is, like, be careful what you wish for. And this could cut both ways. But somebody please fact check me if that's true. No, I'm not able to confirm. My wish, if there's an alien invasion, I'm siding with the extraterrestrials. True. I, for one, welcome our alien overlords, okay? I, for one, welcome our alien overlord. Don't blame me, I voted for Kodos. Alright folks, it is Earth Day, so we're gonna end on this article here. Climate change, ooh, stop it CNN. Climate change clearly visible as NOAA prepares to release new normals. As weather experts and climatologists discussed new climate normals being released next month, they came to a conclusion. Climate change is clearly seen in these new normals. Mike Pilecki, a project manager for NOAA, 1991 through 2020 climate normals. Oh yeah, you can send it to me via Whisper. Send it to me via Whisper. For the past decade, when a meteorologist in the US has said that a temperature type of precipitation is above normal, they were comparing it to average based on weather observations from 1981 to 2010. In May, the new average will be used using data from 1991 to 2020. These climate change normals show a warmer and wetter US. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. We're really seeing the fingerprints of climate change in the new normal, Pilecki added. We're not trying to hide that. We're in fact reflecting that on the new normal so that we can keep track of the climate so people know what the climate is now. We use other data sets to show the climate change over time, but this is a really neat one to look at. Climate normals are a 30-year average of recent climate conditions according to NOAA. They provide the baseline for comparing weather and climate to the recent past. When comparing the new 1991 to 2020 temperature average of the 20th century, average to the 20th century 1901 to 2000 average, it clearly shows the most of the lower 48 states are much warmer now than in the past. Yeah, no kidding. Breaking it down further by showing the 30-year temperature normals of past centuries side by side shows the huge difference in temperatures over time as we go from cooler climates in the early 20th century to ubiquitously warmer climates here in the last two sets of normal. Jesus. Unbelievable. Although the warming trend is very clear, in the longer range comparison from 1991 to 2020 compared to 1901 to 2000, not everyone will have a warmer temperature normal. Will have a warmer temperature normal 91 to 2020 compared to the last normal 81 to 2010 when the new climate normals are put into operation. Temperatures from 1991 to 2020 were generally warmer in most regions and the majority of the seasons across the US, but the north central US was somewhat cooler than the 1981 to 2010 data, especially in the spring. Interestingly, this shift to warmer normal will result in there being fewer above normal temperature days in most of the US at the start of this decade compared to recent years that has used the previous normal cycle. Taking precipitation data and displaying a 30-year average across the last century also reveals the influence of climate change with the wetter trend. Interesting. Precipitation normals have changed and varied from time to time, some periods drier, some periods wetter, but in the last three normals we've been driving towards a much wetter environment in most of the US. When comparing 91 to 2010 precipitation normals to the 81 to 2000 normals, there was a notably large increase among the east and distinct season-dependent shifts were also observed in the west. The nuance in precipitation changes can get lost when averaging the entire year. Some locations may see wetter winters but drier summers, with little net change in annual average precipitation. These changes can create big impacts on natural ecosystems and agriculture that depends on precipitation at specific times. Right. Correct. Changes in intensity and type of precipitation can also occur without changing the annual total. More rain, less snow, heavier downpours with longer dry spells. Yeah, the point being is like, it's not normal, it's out of whack, and it could cause serious problems. Weather has been crazy in Indiana in this spring, 60s and 70s, and the next day 4 inches of snow. Yikes. Applying climate data to everyday life, climate normals offer a wide range of applications just beyond the weather and climate comparisons. These new normals are a better baseline for today's climate, helping inform activities in many economic sectors. Power companies use climate normals to regulate energy load forecasting. Farmers benefit from data for crop selection and planting times, while construction companies use them for planning and building design. Local governments can use average snowfall for operation budget planning and monitoring water resources, and the new data will go into calculating various drought indices. These benefits extend to countless other industries and sectors. The data is gathered from observations at nearly 10,000 weather stations across the US operated by NOAA and the National Weather Service and serve as the nation's official climate normals for the next 10 years. NOAA recommends an update each decade to climate normals, in part to incorporate newer weather stations coming online. However, the agency acknowledges that more recent updates are needed to keep pace with conditions as climate changes over time. In other words, some of these are accelerating or changing pace. This is why temperature and precipitation normals of means, totals, and statistics often shift and change from one 30-year period to the next. The window of 3 decades of observations is considered lengthy enough to offset any variation you would expect from one year to the next. However, with so many weather extremes in recent years, enhanced by human-caused climate change, NOAA is serving up a modified version of its climate normals beginning later this year. For the first time ever, NOAA will include 15-year normals to better represent a climatology period closer to today. The new NOAA normals will be available to the public on May 4th and can be accessed on the NOAA National Centers for Environmental Information webpage. There you go. I mean, we could see it with our eyes. We also went over that video, that program that Google made, where you could see the difference of the glaciers and deforestation and all of this other stuff in real time. You could see how devastating climate change has been. And the fact that these weather patterns are going to continue being erratic or different is going to cause a lot of problems. The fact that we still have yet to have any serious conversation to drive the political will to attempt to address this is worrisome, even though we're seeing the data in front of us with our very own eyes. It's cause for concern. I think that I'm hoping that people are more and more aware, especially today being Earth Day, of the planet, of what's happening, of the real science in front of us. It's not a secret. It's not something that was just manufactured out of thin air. This is based on decades and decades of studies, and it seems like each time we get new data, it looks worse and worse. I think that there are solutions to these problems, and I think that we need to have the political will to do them. I think that we need to focus resources on restoring ecosystems, precious ecosystems that keep us alive. I think we need to rethink the way we do our economy in terms of like this perpetual consumption and planned obsolescence needs to go. I think that we need to move away from fossil fuels as quickly as humanly possible. I think that we also need to kick plastic to the curb. There are viable, sustainable alternatives to a lot of these things that aren't being incentivized, that aren't being promoted, and I think that something like the Green New Deal might bring some of those things to the forefront. And I'm hoping that people realize, and especially today on Earth Day, how important, how serious and severe this problem is, and hopefully, well, if we can do whatever we can in the time that we have, with whatever tools we have, as long as there's still time on the clock, right? That's what we should be aiming to do. and I'm hoping, with no expectations, but I'm hoping that we are able to turn the ship around before the worst of it happens. And at this point, realistically speaking, we are looking at mitigation, not we are looking at mitigating the more serious parts of it. Correct. Got my trash grabber. Me and the kiddo are going to clean up our park on lunch break. Nice. And this could possibly be an opportunity to build community and things like that. Get people aware, because it all starts from the bottom up, and no political pressure is built unless we have a lot of people asking, to fix this and fix this now, while we still have what little bit of time that we have. So yes, of course, I believe that we need to focus on getting resources to restoring ecosystems. We need to move to more sustainable alternatives like hemp. We need to move away from fossil fuels. We need to revamp and redo our infrastructure to be as green as possible. We need to also, after we do that, get a coalition of people, a coalition of countries, and start to export that and make sure that those that need it get the technology and support that is needed so that they can start doing that as well. But until we get until we get a plan here, I think that we're unable to do that, because it is going to an international coalition is going to be necessary, and we can't really sit on the global stage without having a plan of our own, without implementing policies of our own. Okay? And with that, folks, unfortunately, I do have to start getting ready for work. I appreciate each and every one of you hanging out here. Thank you guys. You guys are what makes this channel grow. Thank you, Claydonis, for the subscription. Thank you, Scudarity, for the follow. Alio with the 14 biddies. Lee Spanner for the offline follow. Some more Sunni for the offline follow. I appreciate all of you guys being here. You guys are what makes this channel grow. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you hit that follow button and hit that subscribe button on YouTube, like the stream and all that awesome stuff. We'll be back Saturday, I believe. No, thank you for being here and thank you for the support. We'll be back on Saturday. We do Saturday Catterday, which is a more chill version. We just hang out with the co-host. Usually there are kitty cats involved. We have a little kitty cam. So it's fun stuff on Saturdays. Video games. Just a chance to hang out with you guys. As always, please. And of course the news and politics Monday through Thursday, 9 AM to 11 AM Eastern Time. As always, guys, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. As always, I love y'all, and I hope to see you guys in the next stream. See ya! Alright, we're gonna raid somebody. Let's see here. Let's head on over to Bubbles. Let's give a nice, respectful, a difficult truth love to Bubbles. They are a fantastic person. I think that they're very wholesome streamers. So let's go and say hello. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go.